and welcome to Remembering Woodstock. This is episode 12. We'll be talking about Janis Joplin today, and along for ride as usual is my partner in crime, Vince Lupo. And Vince, today we're going to be talking about Janis Joplin, not just because of her performance at Woodstock, but it this year, 2021, also marks the 50th anniversary of her final album, Pearl. So we're going to be getting into all of that. So I know you're a huge Janis fan. You were sharing with me. So let's get right into it. What was the point of a song that kind of really made you get into Janis?
Ooh, well, when she was first had her hit from Cheap Thrills, which was the great big hit that everybody did, Piece of My Heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the first time I had heard anything like that, and her voice just sent chills down people's spines, and it still does to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I do remember riding in the bus, and somebody had the Cheap Thrills album, and the cover was crazy, and hearing the songs on the radio, and some of the other ones from that particular album that really stand out. How can you not like this person?
Yeah,
her voice, Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not as a huge fan, but of course, like a lot of people, I'm a Janis. I'm aware of who Janis Joplin is, and what's kind of interesting, I was reading up on her, and one thing about Janis Joplin is interesting is if you listen to any of her music, it's hard to kind of pigeonhole exactly what she was. It's been described as everything from blues to rock to soul, R&B, and even a little bit of funk thrown in there.
Right. I think of her as a soul singer.
Yeah, a lot of soul.
And blues. It's mostly between soul and blues, because even the rock has soul in it. And even the funk has soul in it. And we're going to talk about one of these songs on this album, which is very funky.
Yeah.
And there's one on this album called Half Moon.
Oh, yes.
Which is wonderful, really a good band. And so wherever you want to start with all
I guess the best place to start, since we're talking about Woodstock, is her performance at Woodstock. And this is actually before she was actually a solo artist. Going back to 1969, of course, this is the time period we're talking now in regards to Woodstock. And she'd played, I guess, Sunday night at 2 a.m. in the morning, but... it's still pretty... Actually,
it was Saturday, early Sunday morning, 2 a.m.
Yeah. And just to kind of go down the list as far as the songs that were in the set list, and once I do that, you want to kind of tell us what you think of some of these songs, since you know music a little more than I do. Raise Your Hand, As Good as You've Been to the World, To Love Somebody. That's one of my all-time favorite tracks she does. Summertime.
Right. That was a well-known track in her live shows.
Yeah.
Especially. Go ahead.
And, Try Just a Little Bit Harder, Cosmic Blues, Can't Turn You Loose, Work Me Lord. Now, Work Me Lord, I was listening to that, and that's kind of an interesting tune. it's almost kind of got a gospel influence to it, kind of.
That's right. And Summertime is from the movie Porgy and Bess.
Okay.
And that was on, I believe that was on the Cheap Thrills record.
Yeah.
And that she just, her band, the Big Brother and the Holding Company, was more of a garage
type band,
rock type band, okay? And she wanted to keep more in the soul and the blues. So before Woodstock, she dumped that band, and they created the Cosmic Blues Band.
Oh, okay.
And apparently the bass player from that band, I think his name was Brad Campbell, was the first person that was in the last band that created the Pearl album.
Oh, okay. And Piece of My Heart, then, that's one of the final two songs here. Of course, is a big hit that everybody probably has heard of at least, half a dozen times on the radio. And another kind of one of her songs I really dug was Ball and Chain. And the thing about Janis Joplin is, up until the point Janis got on the scene, there weren't a whole lot of, I guess what you could call as kind of like rocker chicks. We had before that you had like these girl groups like the Supremes and that, but Janis was really one of the first kind of rock female rock performers to kind of really get a lot of attention.
Yeah, Yes, and she went full on hippie.
Yeah, yeah.
She did the whole hippie trip. Ball and Chain is another one that was from that Cheap Thrills album,
Yeah, yeah.
I believe. And she always did that song live. And in fact, this song that we're talking about was back 2 years prior when she performed at the Monterey Pop Festival. That's the granddaddy of all of the festivals. That's the first one. And in that, there is a clip of Mama Cass turning to whoever sitting next to her towards the end of that, just mouthing like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
And Mama Cass, great already.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different style, you know? But, oh my goodness, she just gangbusters on the scene.
Yeah, and like I said, Janis Joplin's one of the first kind of female artists to kind of come along at that point who, if you got to see her play live. I mean, I'm just watching some of the video clips and prepping for today. I mean, she was quite the performer. I mean, she was not the typical female performer in the sense of, like, she was, like, if you listen to any of these songs, she was not afraid to go, to go kind of outside the norm, and that's what people loved about her.
That's right. Not only that, but when you see the video clips of her, she commands the stage. She became more of a performer in what we think of now as rock performance.
Yeah, yeah.
Than somebody just standing there and singing while performing. She put her whole body, her whole heart and soul, literally, into all of these. You could see her directing the band, and they would be looking at her. And in fact, let me just break for a second. There are some really cool clips of her on the Dick Cavett show from back then.
Okay.
I think she did 2 performances, and there are 2 or 3 songs that are from this last performance on his show. So you can see some of the stuff from the record that we're talking about, Pearl.
Yeah.
Played live. Band is great. That band was called Full Tilt Boogie.
Okay.
And they what a good band. Guitar, bass, drums, and 2 keyboardists.
Wow.
One was more organ, and one was piano. They were at opposite ends of the stage, and really a really hot group.
Yeah.
Before that was a Cosmic Blues Band. They had more of the horns in there.
Interesting. Yeah.
They had great stuff.
Definitely a progression from the different bands. But I'll tell you about other things. I dare kind of, agree with you, Vince, as far as let's almost say that she, when it comes to female kind of performers, she almost was one of the early people on the scene. I mean, she, I dare say, kind of helped create the blueprint for that. And what's interesting with Janis Joplin is where with a lot of female singers, even that we have today, a lot of people can say, oh, well, that person got attention because, they really look hot or whatever. But she wasn't really, it wasn't so much based on her looks because a lot of people didn't think she was that attractive. And it's just kind of, she's one of those people kind of goes to prove that you don't need to, be the best looking person to be talented,
She was bullied in school.
Yeah.
So bad.
I read about that. Yeah.
And this partly drove her to overcome them. And when she went back to her high school, I think there was a reunion.
Like, look at me now. Yeah.
Something like, exactly. Yeah. Look at me now. Who are you?
Yeah.
You know? But in a sense, she got that last laugh. And some of the things that I've learned about reading about her, really chilling. One, Pearl is her nickname.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So the album was named after her nickname, which was given to her from her best friends back in the school days.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the connection was, to be honest. So that's where the album got its title.
Wow.
And to me, that album, end to end, is virtually flawless. The songs, each one of the songs, stands up on its own.
Oh, yeah.
And just great. We'll get into that in a moment. One thing that we know, this is the 50th anniversary of her death.
Yeah.
This album came out 3 months and a week after she passed.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm kind of glad we waited to do an episode on Janis Joplin till now, because what really kind of made me want to do this now is I was reading an article online about all these articles that in 2021 turned 50 years old, and this was one of the albums on that list. I thought, wow, wouldn't that be great to tie this into what we're doing? And to kind of like I was sharing with you, Vince, through email today, this was kind of her final album or final statement. Like you said, it came out after her death, and I was reading it. The album peaked like at number one, but it stayed there at number one for 9 weeks, which is, I mean, that's just amazing.
It was massively huge, partly because she had died.
Yeah.
But mostly because, to me, the music is great. And one of the facts that I heard about this record was Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, yeah.
Was her final recording she ever recorded.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, Vince, but that's one of my all-time favorite tracks she does. And what I want to talk about is before I ever heard the Janis version of this song, which of course is the original, I heard a version by this guitar player named Gilby Clarke that used to play with Guns N' Roses off one of his
I've met Gilby.
Solo albums. And what's kind of interesting is Gilby's got kind of a little more, his version's obviously a little more of a rockin' tune, if you can believe that. And then I'm listening to the Janis version, which is original, as I said, today, prepping for this. And I was kind of surprised that hers, there's a lot more vocal to her version. Gilby does a great vocal, but his is obviously, since he's a guitar player, it's a little more guitar oriented. But it was kind of different from what I thought the song was, but it's still a rockin' tune,
Yes, really good. I love the very first track, Move Over.
Oh, yeah.
Right, that sets the whole tone of the whole record. Between that and the second song, Cry Baby.
Oh, that's another one I love.
Those two songs, you had the rock influence, and you got the blues influence, and then you got the funk influence on that album. It's all there.
And move over. Like if you were to hear that song like for the first time, you're listening to it, say on the radio, not knowing anything about it's a Janis Joplin tune, you might just think it's like an R&B tune, being sung by a black person. I say that only because if you just listening to it with your ears, not even knowing anything about who's singing it, it kind of has that vibe. It kind of has like an R&B vibe to it, and yet it's a little bit of an edge. It's got like a rockin' edge to it. But you're right; it sets the mood for the whole album.
It really does. And then all of a sudden, we're going along. We're 5, 6. We get to the 7th tune, and it's me and Bobby McGee.
Oh, another great tune. Yeah.
So here's another part of her, because she's born in Port Arthur, Texas. She's a Texan.
Okay.
Texan. And Bobby McGee, written by Christopherson.
Oh, okay.
So how unusual to you throw this country tune right in the middle of this rock and blues and soul record.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting you say that. I mean, this might be one of the very first kind of early country rock tunes. It's just amazing because, again, she had such a way performing these songs. I mean, you listen to any of these Janis Joplin tunes, and I mean, she had the voice. She had the voice. She had so much going for her. And any of these tunes we're talking about, they're really great, great written tunes. And that's the thing about any artist that has any kind of like, that you could still be talking about 50 years later. I mean, they've got to have great songs. I mean, even if she didn't write all these songs, I mean, they're great tunes. She was the voice for these songs, if you know what I mean, and she delivered.
Oh, yes. And just so you know, so everybody knows, the middle of that record has a song called Buried Alive in the Blue.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was listening to these tunes, prepping for this, and that was one of the tunes that really just stuck out to me.
Surprise, right?
Yeah.
Vocal, all band had that one lick that they kept on revisiting, and the band really shows off. I mean, wow, really great stuff. So this is one of the albums that you can go back to, never get tired of if you love her. Also on stage, what a magnetic personality.
Yeah.
You can't take your eyes. You try, but you can't.
Yeah, I mean, she has some kind of unique I don't know what it was, attitude, combination of attitude and presence. When you look at her performing on stage, because again, it wasn't so much that she was this glamorous, gorgeous looking person, but just the talent that kind of oozed out of her. And she had such a way of, she was not. It's not just like you're looking at a person that's like a stick on stage or just staying in one. I mean, like you said, your eyes were all over her, and it wasn't necessarily because she was the most gorgeous woman on, but that didn't even really have an effect. It just all the talent, all the stuff that was oozing out of her.
Oh, commanded the stage.
Yeah.
It's funny, the progression of her music, taken from the Big Brother band, that really stripped down garagey rock type band, to Cosmic Blues and Full Tilt Boogie. What a progression. You could see the natural progression of where this person would have gone had she not passed when she passed.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I was reading, the guy that produced this album, his name was Paul Rothschild, who up until that point he was known for producing the Doors.
That's right.
Kind of. So that's why this probably has a little bit more of a rock edge to what she's doing here.
Well, here's something that struck me re-listening to the album. Was I'm getting about 3/4 of the way through the album, and I'm saying to myself, this is what music sounded like back then.
Yeah.
This was what real music sounded like, unfiltered, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not just guitar, bass, drums, keys, voice. That's it. And recorded cleanly, but yet it still had that feel of a real band playing behind her. Nothing, no tracks, no synthesizer stuff. Just real raw music. The rawest of the raw was Big Brother.
Yeah.
So I liked when she went to Cosmic Blues, did Cosmic Blues, and did this. It was mature, and she was maturing as an artist right before our eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and Mercedes Benz on here is like just such a raw one of those tunes, because, like I said, it's almost you listen and main thing you're hearing is just kind of her vocal, hardly any music behind it, but it's still kind of like it just comes to life,
Yeah, what a wonderful piece of music history that had to literally die right before our eyes.
Right at the prime, and it's kind of interesting too, because again, I'm bringing this song up because one of my favorite songs she does, Mercedes Benz, and you listen to that, and it's a great kind of rockin' tune, and it's got a pretty good beat, but at the same time, if you sit and you listen to the words, I mean, there's a line in there that goes something about worked hard all my life, just buy a color TV or something like that, and I'm like, you just listen to the words. I mean, there's really some thought into it, put into it.
Yes, very much so. And if you're not a Janis Joplin fan, I'm talking to whoever's listening. Yeah. If you're not a Janis Joplin fan, you want to not just hear the early hits. You want to listen to this album from beginning to end. Yeah. It's really a stunning piece of work when you think about it.
Yeah, and again,
wonderful piece of work.
Again, you were there when this, so was I. Interesting enough, I was born in 1971, so 50. This is almost as old as I am. So listening to this 50 years later, I've heard some of these songs. Sure I have on the radio, but listening to the album as a whole, it's almost kind of like listening it to the very first time, the whole package, and hearing a brand new album. And it's amazing because from a guy that was just, a toddler then, listening to these tunes 50 years later, it's really like listening to a new album. And that's just how good of an album is, that somebody that wasn't even there 50 years ago, or, you're just starting out, 50 years later, it's just as good.
Yeah. You hit it. Yeah. Exactly. It's refreshing, you put something down that long. I haven't listened to the whole record end to end in many years until we said we wanted to discuss this. And as I said, I listened to the whole thing, and it was like, what a revelation. Yeah. What a revelation. We're talking about remembering Woodstock. Here's some Woodstock facts that I stumbled upon.
Okay. Yeah.
Besides playing that almost a full hour set at 2 a.m, I missed that set by about 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Closer to 4 hours. So nobody even said we had missed her. Mm-hmm. We didn't know. We just didn't. I don't know. When we got there, we gang I went with didn't know how much had happened before us musically.
Mm-hmm.
They, on the movie, which famous movie,
Yeah.
she's on the outtakes or the extras.
Okay.
Okay? But it was at her behest. She told them that she didn't want to be in the movie.
Interesting.
Why?
Yeah.
She said she thought she sucked.
Wow.
She hated her singing from that performance. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But she hated it, and she did not want to. She requested, don't put me in the movie.
Wow.
That must have been an eyebrow raiser to these guys.
Yeah.
But she didn't want to be in it. And she stayed all the way through beyond when Jimi Hendrix finished his show.
Wow.
She stayed there that whole time from Saturday, when she must have got to the site Saturday afternoon.
Amazing.
Sometime. And all the way through Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
She stayed there. In fact, she was on the side of the stage watching Hendrix live. Yeah. And apparently she was also there for Crosby, Stills, and Nash's first set ever, watching them over there. And I think she jumped in and sang with somebody else. So she did what we all did.
Yeah.
It was a celebration of life. She was enjoying herself.
Wow, and I've seen some pictures online of her and Jimi Hendrix. I don't know if it was at Woodstock or later, but I guess apparently she thought a lot of him and eventually got to know him. So that's kind of cool. But let me ask you, somebody who was there at Woodstock, Vince, at the time of you're attending Woodstock, was Janis Joplin, I'm assuming she's already an established, but was she very big at the time, or was she kind of on her way up?
Well, she was already beyond her way up.
Okay.
Because the first two albums were already out and had Summertime, Ball and Chain, Piece of My Heart, and all of these.
Yeah.
Piece of My Heart was a hit on AM radio. We all knew it. So even though she was one of those FM staple people, FM played her a lot. We all knew it. We knew every song. She was, in my mind, she was already an established rock star. Yeah. Remember, she was at the other thing 2 full years prior.
Uh-huh.
So, and I think that the band had gotten together in 65 or 66 and put out something in 67 and 68. So she was already established in my head.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And again, it's kind of interesting because "Piece of My Heart," I think that's one of those songs when people say Janis Joplin, that's probably the first song that comes to mind, or at least one of them, because that was the big hit, obviously, and she sings it with such an attitude, and you can't, I can't even really imagine anybody else ever singing that song. It's just she owned it,
That's right. And then from the Cosmic Blues, the song "Try."
Yeah.
Try just a little bit harder.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
And that started to crack, but I believe it was Mercedes-Benz, Bobby McGee, and Piece of My Heart that were the ones that really stuck on AM for a while.
And let me ask you, Vince, at the time of Woodstock, I mean, I'm sure you, at the time you're attending Woodstock, you've heard about a lot of these bands. Maybe not, maybe you just find out about some of them. But in regards to Janis Joplin, was her drug addiction as well known as it is? I mean, people ever talk about that, or did she hide it really well?
Well, I don't think she hid it all that well.
Okay, that's why I'm asking.
She was a big drinker.
Okay, yeah.
She was one of those Southern Comfort people, and she was sloshed apparently quite a bit through those years. And towards the end, this is something they're reading up on her life. She met this guy, and they went to, I think it was Brazil. They went to South America. She was trying to get straight.
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't take, but because her then boyfriend was not into drugs.
Yeah.
So people appreciated the fact that he was trying to help her clean up
the drugs.
But we all know
even back then, heroin. I mean, it wasn't, I guess, as serious as this, or it wasn't as well known as a thing, and that's what ultimately killed her, from what I understand, the heroin. But she was one of those people, I guess, along with like Jimi Hendrix, Morrison, and then years later Kurt Cobain, what they call the Club of 27, died at the young age of 27.
Right.
Yeah.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And let me tell you, it was all that
and
through the
more.
'60s and through the '70s, and then even into the '80s, and that's the story of rock and roll.
Oh yeah,
To me, that's it. All kind of comes together. Apparently, she had a lot of air quote lovers.
yeah.
Okay, she had a lot of that. She lived in excess, but yet she was shy.
Yeah.
You know, and so her on stage is the opposite of how she was really.
Yeah, I've read stuff about her, and I have seen some documentaries over the years talking about her where people had even known her, kind of like saying what you just said, but she had one persona kind of on stage, from being bullied all those years, and it's kind of like she could get up there, she could connect with her audience, connect with her people. That's, I guess, where she was most comfortable. Even at home and stuff, she had trouble, I guess, dealing with some of her fame and all that, and things that went along with that. But when she was on stage or in the studio, she was connecting with her fans, and she was just she was one with them.
Yes, and this is time for a self-confession.
Sure.
I am the most relaxed on stage.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
Even when I'm at maybe a social gathering, a party, or something, I feel uncomfortable is probably a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Unless I might have a drink or two and I loosen up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a little more softer spoken in a larger crowd than you might think.
Yeah.
I'm shyer in that way or
I hear
whatever.
You. Yeah.
But on stage, that's my home. I can control my surroundings. I'm in total control, and that's where I feel the most worth, except for being in my family.
Of course.
In my home, So what we're saying about her is true of
a lot of people.
Almost all musicians. I don't know, but many musicians. Just the opposite of that is that Carly Simon, who had such panic and stage fright.
Oh, yeah.
But she needed to make a living, so she performed.
Yeah.
So that's where we're able to let our hair down and actually be ourselves.
Yeah.
Which is on stage, even if you're under a different, like I'm doing Charlie Watts or Ringo or anybody else. Yeah, I'm not me, but I'm me.
Yeah, and then somebody like Janis Joplin, you almost stop and wonder, like, for all these people. Of course, in life, you never know that, people, what they're going to grow up and be, but all those people that maybe tease her in school or whatever, you're like, and then years later, I went to school with that person. Oh, yeah. They might change the story, but a little like, I was best friends with her in school or whatever. That maybe not be the case. And, I just loved her music. It's like, you go, again, life goes through all these turns and twists, and you never know people you're going to counter on the way. And it just kind of, it's interesting. People might have looked at Janis Joplin and thought, she's not that attractive, or she's whatever, and look what she grew up to be,
Yes. I wanted to bring attention to a few things while we're starting to wrap this up.
Yeah.
The album cover. That is so iconic, Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
The feather boa in the hair.
Yeah.
The oversized sunglasses.
Yeah.
The pose. Such hippie Janis. This is how I remember Janis Joplin. Like that photo, that type of persona that comes through the roots.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because of all the stuff we were just kind of talking about in regards to her. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but when you just said that, I seen the album cover, that you're talking about, and it is kind of so over the top, which kind of Janis Joplin was when it came to her music and what she did. And when you stop and think, this is kind of her it is her final album. It was released, like you said, after she passed away, and it was still a major hit. That's the impression, that album cover. That's like kind of the final impression all the Janis Joplin fans, or just everybody around the world, got. And 50 years later, that image of her, just she's been dead, for 50 years too. So but you look at that image on the album cover, you listen to the whole entire album, and you're left even 50 years later with if that's her final impression we all get of Janis Joplin, what a way to leave a world.
That's right. In your car, in your home, it's she's alive.
Yeah, she's alive, and it's just, and then you just stop and wonder, okay, if that's her final piece of work, if she had not died so tragically young, if she'd been able to get off the drugs and that, what just think of all the other great music that just might have been.
There's two things that are coming out, and there's one that I don't know how close it is.
Uh-huh.
One is a movie of her with Zooey Deschanel.
Okay.
Doing her, I forget, but there's a really big Hollywood biopic coming out, and of her life.
Yeah.
And who's the star? None other than Amy Adams.
Wow,
oh my goodness.
That will be something to see, and maybe at a future date, once it does come out, we can talk about that. But I will say this, kind of in reference to what you do, playing in tribute bands and stuff. Oddly enough, there's not a whole lot of Janis tributes. I'm aware of about maybe one or two. I don't know if it's just because Janis is so unique in everything she does that it's hard to find somebody that's got the look, got the sound.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Going back 3 or 4 years, we were part of a show that had 3 components to it, and it was supposed to be a Woodstock thing.
Yeah.
Kind of, but with having a Stones band at a Woodstock revival thing was not right,
Yeah.
So there was a Janis singer who we made friends with, really good singer, but she used the tracks.
Okay.
And she was able to walk through the audience, and it wasn't as authentic in that way.
Yeah.
But she looked like her, she sounded like her, she was a nice lady, forget her name.
Yeah.
And then there was also a Hendrix guy. Now, the funny part about the Hendrix guy was that he, a great guitar player, oh man, great singer. I mean, he did it.
Yeah.
He didn't have a backing band.
Wow.
So he asked Marvin and myself before the guy who put it all together asked if you think if we could do some backing for him. Marvin and I were sure. Wow. I played enough of them. So we played probably a good 45 minutes to an hour backing this guy cold.
Wow.
I mean, absolutely cold. And Marvin and I had never played Hendrix together before or since.
Wow. And
it went off great. And then there was us sandwiched in the middle of all of these.
Yeah.
There's that. There's some singers out there that do the voice. There's a new band that came out, and I believe they're from San Diego.
Okay.
San Diego. And I think they're called Cosmic Blues Band.
Oh, I have to look that up. Wow.
With the K. They're on Facebook.
Okay.
I friended them. I can't wait to see this because I'm a fan. I want to go see something like that, So I'm interested. I haven't seen any video or heard anything yet, but boy, am I interested.
And it's called the Cosmic Blues Band, you said, or Cosmic Band?
Yeah, you'll see. Go on Facebook, and in fact, you can look through my
friends,
my likes. It's in there.
Okay, and the other thing when referring to Hendrix tributes out there, probably the most authentic one ever. I think he was mostly big, like around Seattle area. Was this guitar player named Randy Hansen. He really looked the part. He sounded and played almost. I mean, people look at him and would almost mistake him for Hendrix. He was that good.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I don't really know about that particular person.
And final question for you today, Vince.
Go for it.
Since we were, I know we're no longer playing with the Stones tribute. We talked about that last episode, but I know you'd had another project, the Shagwells. I was wondering if COVID ever kind of people were able to go back to performing. Any chance that project may kind of still be around, or you guys not know at this point?
Well, it turned out that Mick and Aaron moved to Arizona.
Oh, okay.
And reformed the Shagwells.
Okay.
With other players from there. So they just did a couple of shows. Sounded great.
Yeah.
And so and Marvin and I are going to get together and jam soon. He just got his second COVID shot. I'm about to in a couple of days. So we're going to get together and jam. If we put together anything, we don't know.
Yeah, maybe. We hope so.
Yeah, that's still going, but that's more over in
down the line.
That region now.
And now let me ask you in regards to you and Marvin doing anything. I mean, who knows what the future holds right now because of all this COVID stuff. But would you guys ever consider like putting some of this, say, down on a CD or something, like of all your favorite music from that era, maybe like a cool covers thing?
I have no qualms when I get to do any of that, and Marvin is a tremendous engineer.
Yeah.
Could happen.
And I kind of when the time is right, Vince, of course, urge you to consider doing that because somebody that's kind of followed you over the years and see what you're capable as a musician. I understand why you're no longer in the other band, but I just would hate to see that you kind of put the drumsticks up forever. We don't want that.
No. So this is going to air much further in the future.
Yeah.
But once I get that shot, a few weeks later, I'm going to just let everybody know, hey, I'm available. So if anybody wants to, hit me up.
And just to kind of get
that's coming, but
and just to get people kind of excited once you're listening to this show we're doing today is next up, me and Vince have discussed, and we'll get much into it when we do it. And next time is we're going to talk next time about Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Vince was sharing me that.
Possibly young.
I was going to ask you about that real quick because you told me you played a lot of. Now, it's Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and then Crosby, Stills. Was Neil Young in the band early on, or did he come later?
He was on early on. It was just somewhere in the middle of the first album. He kind of came along.
Okay.
So the first album was not with him.
Okay, that's what I thought.
He might even appear in it. I'm not sure.
So we'll get into that.
But that whole second album called Deja Vu.
Okay.
Had a lot of him, but then he just kind of did his own thing again because Neil was always a loner.
Yeah, because that's we'll talk more about that in the next step. But that's part of the confusion there. I think, at least what I had. I think other people is. You hear Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. So
right.
We'll get into that. So thanks, Vince.
Great stuff too. Okay.
Bye.
Great stuff.
It was great talking to you.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.